What's up? What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Will Brinson. I'm your host. I don't know what's happening to my voice. This is the Week 2 recap. An insane week of NFL football. To break it all down, joining me as always, Ryan Wilson and John Breech. Ryan, did the Bengals win today?
Let's ask Snoopy.
What is happening here?
Snoopy says the Bengals, Joe Burrow's appendix is ruptured, and the Bengals have not won a game since Ryan got the Snoopy tattoo.
I told Brinson on the Sunday Night Football halftime podcast that if the Bengals lose again, I'm just going to cut you a check to get the tattoo removed. I'm done with the tattoo. I'm not going to listen to Snoopy all year. I'm getting rid of Snoopy. Call your tattoo removal guy.
And you were so excited about it.
By the way, if you're watching, smash the like button, hit subscribe, turn on alerts. You'll get notified when we go live. Really bad day for the AFC North as a whole, actually. Like a really bad day.
I don't think so. Steelers are currently in first place. If the season ends today, they're going to the playoffs before anyone else.
Well, I'm not saying that. Okay, I mean, they're still lost.
Wilson, if the season ended today, there wouldn't be any playoffs because it takes some sort of nuclear disaster to cancel the last 16 weeks of the NFL season.
I can't hear you.
They get declared Super Bowl champs?
I can't hear you because Cooper Rush is still cheering that victory over the Bengals.
What is happening here? Oh, he missed. He missed. Oh, and he may have pulled a hamstring or a muscle, and there is complete elation.
By the way, shout out to Sam Bruce Smith in the comments. He writes, Joe Burrow still hasn't showered, still hasn't changed, still wearing most of his uniform. Been sitting in his locker staring forward since the game ended.
We will get to the Cowboys defeat. The Cowboys, by the way, without Dak Prescott, Cooper Rush was their quarterback, and they still beat the Bengals.
I believe we're going to start with a game, an AFC North team that actually had a worse loss than the Bengals. Huh.
We are going to do that, and that would be the Baltimore Ravens, who, look, I'm going to take the L here. Any sort of Dolphins hate or dismissal from me appears quite foolish.
What's going on with your voice, Chris Collinsworth?
It was an NC State home game. You know what happened.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nothing
Undefeated,
even nefarious or interesting.
Maybe game day at nothing nefarious. Maybe game day at Clemson when we go down there couple weeks. Anywho, Dolphins 42, Ravens 38, an absolutely insane game. If you stack these two teams in DFS, you're feeling pretty good about it. Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill became just the second duo in NFL history to each have 170 receiving yards and 2 receiving touchdowns in the same game. The last time it happened, 1942. Can anyone guess the two guys who did it for the 1942 Green Bay Packers?
That was the year Wilson was born.
Don Houston and who else?
Andy Urum.
Was Don Houston one of them?
Yeah.
Holy crap. I was there, Breech.
It's actually Don Huston, right? Is it Houston or Huston?
I don't know. I couldn't hear the P.
Either way, you got it.
Nice.
Lamar Jackson, first player in NFL history with a passing touchdown and a rushing touchdown of 75-plus yards in the same game. The first player in NFL history with 300 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, 100 rush yards, and a rushing touchdown in the same game. 11 career 100-yard rushing games for Lamar, the most in NFL history by a quarterback, and a 79-yard touchdown run, the 5th longest rushing touchdown by a quarterback in NFL history. And none of it mattered because they couldn't stop the dynamic duo of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Tua Tagovailoa, who I did not dismiss, Dolphins fans, but I did suggest the Patriots could win in week 1, and so that the hype around Tua was getting a little overblown. Put it right back in my face. 36 of 50, 469 yards, 6 passing touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Pretty awesome game from him, Wilson.
Yeah, let's play some fun fact games real quick here, see if you guys know the answers. Dolphins quarterbacks with 5+ passing touchdowns in a game. You know one of them because he just did it. Who are the other 2?
Dan Marino.
Yep. Now the other one's a little tricky, but it's a good guess.
Patrick Mahomes.
No, he's never played for the Dolphins. Nice try.
I was just looking at the graph.
Jay Feely.
Jay Feely's
Jay Feeler.
Brian Greasy.
You looked at the answer. Yes, it's Brian.
Oh, is he really?
Oh, you weren't looking?
I just guessed. I just named the first Dolphins quarterback that came to mind.
Very good. Okay, here's another fun fact. Entering Sunday's action, week 2, how many games in a row had the teams lost when trailing by 21 or more points entering the fourth quarter? It's in the hundreds. I'll give you a hint. So how many times have teams been in that situation and lost that game in a row?
Oh, it's Bob Greasy. It's Bob Greasy, not Brian Greasy, right?
No, Brian.
It is Brian Greasy. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. I don't know, 155.
You want to guess, Breech?
172.
576.
Oh, you said in the hundreds.
Yeah. The implication was it was 100 something.
Yeah, you got to guess. You should have said between 100 and 1,000.
Oh, Jesus. Dealing with a bunch of numbnuts. 576. So I pumped on my own. Yes, that's insane. So, the problem for me, there's no problem for me. It's a fantastic game, a great win for the Dolphins. And look, it makes a strong case for getting great players around your young quarterback for sure.
Sure does.
Hey, Bill Belichick, you're not going to play the Steelers every week. You might want to figure that out if you have the means to do so. But the other issue for me is, in Breech, maybe you can explain why on God's green earth the Ravens decided to quit covering Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle in the last 15 minutes of that football game.
It just seemed like, John Harbaugh was talking about after the game. He just couldn't believe that the secondary totally broke down. When you are making a defensive game plan and you're facing a team like the Dolphins, you literally tell yourself, don't let Tyreek Hill beat us. Don't let Jalen Waddle beat us. And definitely don't let both of them beat us. And that's exactly what happened. It really made no sense. And I do think that you're right, Wilson, that if you put two superstars around, it's not like Tua went out there and made 30 awesome passes. This was Tua. This is Mike McDaniel devising an offense that is perfect for Tua. And Tua's just out there, he's a way above game manager, but not at the level of great. Yeah, exactly, Brinson, exactly. And
he reminds me of Tony Parker. I don't know
why he ran it to a T. That's exactly what you want. And if the Ravens aren't going to cover Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, then this is what's going to happen. Granted, a couple of their catches were phenomenal and they were covered, but for the most part, they were open and they were making plays and racking up the yards after catch.
There was one that Tyreek made late where it was like it looked like it was going to be like again. He was like, no, I'm taking this ball. And then he picked up a bunch of more yards. That was the blueprint for why we thought Miami could be great, is that you get Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill the ball in space and let them do what they do best. And that's like in that Mike McDaniel offense, which is ostensibly just a Kyle Shanahan style offense as well. That's the basic premise. You see that with Deebo Samuel, you see that with Brandon Ayuk all the time, and the Dolphins are doing it. And now Mike McDaniel has wins over Bill Belichick and John Harbaugh, and he's 2-0 to start his career. And I'm not dismissing them as a contender for the AFC East, because I think they could win it. I still would suggest that the Bills obviously should be heavy favorites to take the division crown. But Miami looks like a wild card. Even though some of the scores in week one was fluky, they do look like a team that could potentially make some noise in the playoffs.
Hey, they're stacking wins. They're stacking wins.
You want to stack wins. That's what you got to do right now. You stack wins early in the season, especially when you're not favored. When you're a dog, or you're a 5-point dog, you want to try to stack a win like that. That is a huge AFC win that will pay off dividends down the road, even if it came. I haven't seen the win chart. How high was? Does anybody know how high Baltimore was when they
had to be in the 90s at some point?
I don't think it was 35-14.
Yeah, I don't think it was 99 because it wasn't that late in the game, but I could be wrong. I haven't seen it. I'm just, doing the Wilson win chart here.
And the crazy thing is, watching the first half, there was no indication that this breakout was going to happen. We saw he threw 2 interceptions. Their offense couldn't do anything at all, and they were down 28-7. It was like it was just, hey, are the Ravens going to win this 51-10? And then the Dolphins' offense just caught fire. It was actually kind of cool to watch, and their offense is incredibly fun.
Well, I think the takeaway is that they're never out of it, right? So even if Tua does throw interceptions early, even if they're finding ways to momentarily bottle up Tyreek and or Jalen, it ain't going to last. One of the things, a couple things, Brinson, we missed it on the Thursday podcast, but my new thing now is to note all the fourth down, whether you go for it or not.
Right.
Fourth and 1 from the -45, 2 minutes to go in the second quarter, Dolphins trailing 21-7. and Tua runs for it and gets it. I mean, these are simple things that sort of add up. At the end of the day, it may not matter in that specific play, but I think those things stick out. Also, something that stuck out to me late in the game, before the game-winning touchdown to Jalen Waddle, Chase Edmonds had a huge run up the middle. The clock was at 24 seconds when he got tackled, and they let 15 seconds run off before the touchdown throw from Tua to Jalen Waddle. And I was like, okay, what's going on? They had timeouts right and they stopped in the clock. Clearly didn't matter, but I do wonder what the thinking was there, whether that got lost in the mix. But again, at the end of the day, it was inconsequential because the insane comeback. I mean, and this overshadows, by the way, how unbelievably awesome Lamar Jackson was.
Yeah, it really is crazy. Like, I mean, I read those historical stats. It's nuts. And by the way, 97.8 is what I see for the win probability for the Ravens with
Debo said 98.3.
And real quick, Wilson, I think they let the clock run down because that run got them into a goal-to-go situation. So they knew they only had 4 plays. And at 24 seconds, 6 seconds of play, you're making sure the Ravens don't have any time left.
All right, they thought it through. Okay.
McDaniel knows what he's doing.
You think so? You're not worried about him like you are necessarily, say, Nathaniel Hackett?
Yes, I am not worried about Mike McDaniel like I am Nathaniel Hackett. It's
Okay.
like if Nathaniel Hackett had been coaching the Dolphins on Sunday, the final score would have been 51-10.
So we haven't talked about the Sunday night game yet, but I'm looking at the net passing yards for both teams. Miami's net passing yards was 461. That is literally 90% more net passing yards than what the Bears had at 41 net passing yards or 48 net passing yards.
it's pretty bad.
They're playing 2 different games.
Yeah, I mean, it's 2 different games. I mean, all right. So where would you sort of slot in Miami?
Well, they're my number 5 team on my Super Bowl roster, so that's good for me. Speaking in terms of real life stuff, they're a problem. I mean, they're a legit problem for the rest of the AFC. Obviously, they smoked the pants off the Patriots in Week 1. Now the Bills are another story. I think they.
Yeah, I feel like you could make an argument that they're 3. You put the Bills and the Chiefs, and then the Dolphins. Is that crazy?
Yeah. No, it is not.
Maybe if you want to slot the Chargers ahead, but I mean, Justin Herbert's dealing with the rib thing, and I don't think it's crazy to have the Dolphins at 3.
We saw what happened with the freaking Raiders. What are you doing? So what happened with them? The Colts are the worst team in football somehow. So
it is a testament. We'll talk about a few more of these games, but like to what the NFL wanted to have happen by making it a pass happy, aggressive, like scoring league. Now every Sunday, like you can get 6 of these games, and it's not surprising.
I do wonder if the math going forward, and this will bleed into the draft conversations, once that gets going in a few months or so, full force wise, if GMs and coaches can talk themselves into just above average quarterbacks like Tua. No disrespect to Tua. He's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not Justin Herbert.
Right now, would you go Joe Burrow or Tua if you were picking a quarterback?
If Joe Burrow was playing on the Dolphins, he would have 20 touchdowns right now.
All right, let's pretend like your tattoo is gone. Burrow or Herbert? I mean, Burrow or Tua.
No, I think I'm sticking with Joe Burrow. I'm not changing that. I mean, there's only so much.
Put it
this way. Put Tua on the Bengals, he's going out in the body bag. I mean, that offensive line somehow got worse. But my point is this. I wonder if teams will try to talk themselves into, okay, we'll just get a game manager point guard, to use your word, Brinson, and surround him with Devontae Adamses of the world, the Tyreek Hills of the world. They're hard to find.
And hire a Kyle Shanahan coaching tree coach.
And see what happens. I mean, it might, I don't know if it's cheaper, but it might be. It might be cheaper. It might be a better way to get, might be easier to find those pieces at least than to find a Justin Herbert or Patrick Mahomes.
I'll say that a winner is obviously Tua Tagovailoa, and a loser is obviously me.
Yeah, I double down on that loser. You are a loser. For the Dolphins game. Okay, yes, sure.
Yeah, actually, I haven't gotten that many tweets. I'm kind of surprised. I'm
going to go Mike McDaniel's a winner, Breech, because I think he's 2-0, right? They won the first game. Who did they beat week 1?
Patriots 27.
I just said that. Yeah, so he's 2-0 as a first year.
He's 2-0.
2-0, 2-0. So I'm going to make him the big winner. Also, I'll give Tyreek Hill honorary mention because we made fun of him all off season for talking up Tua. I don't know if Tua's great or not, but Tua's doing just enough to make Tyreek happy, and it's making that trade more than worth it through 2 weeks for the Dolphins.
By the way, Rashad.
Well, speaking of that trade, real quick, I'll go with Chris Greer, the general manager, for making the trade and saying, you know what, let's get someone awesome in here. He'll revamp our offense, and now the offense looks awesome.
We're also not talking about Stephen Ross, by the way, who is still suspended from.
Can't talk about him. He's suspended.
Yeah.
By the way, I think it is interesting to note that Rashad Bateman had another big game, 4 catches, 108 yards, and a touchdown. Sort of starting to see a legitimate wide receiver core in Baltimore. Obviously, they have to clear up some stuff on defense. I don't think anybody's going to blame that offense for their output today or how they played. I think that's interesting. Like, if they can tighten up the defense, the Ravens are a very, very dangerous team.
By the way, quickly before we move on, the very first play of the game, Devin Duvernay returned the kickoff for a touchdown, and we're like, okay, the game's over.
Correct.
He had to leave with a concussion, so he wasn't in. They actually had Kenyon Green back to take the last kickoff, which went through the end zone. So they lost an opportunity there to perhaps get some yards on the kickoff, even though it would have been a long shot. But that's how that game felt like it took an eternity, and it started with a Ravens special teams touchdown and ended with Jalen Waddle doing the penguin dance.
Another team that suffered a brutal loss in a come from behind effort, the Las Vegas Raiders. It fell 29-23 to the Arizona Cardinals and Kyler Murray in overtime when it looked like, I know in the group chats, it was like, are Kyler and Cliff in trouble here? Like, they just signed extensions and they don't look great. And then all of a sudden they storm back. They beat the and Kyler had what he ran 84 yards in 20 seconds on a 2-point conversion play to gain like 3 yards or 2 yards or whatever it is.
Let me ask this question to either of you: is this sustainable for the Raiders? Like, I mean, not the Raiders, excuse me, for the Cardinals.
No.
Right.
Calling a play that totally fails and then Kyler Murray saves it is not sustainable.
that's
not possible.
That's where I'm going. Okay. So
I think the key, though, is, again, we said it already, stack wins until DeAndre Hopkins comes back. Because maybe the offense changes once Hopkins comes back. Yeah. 0 points in the first half. 53 total yards in the first half. Second half, 20 and overtime, 29 points, 252 yards. Kyler Murray was way, way, way better. But I agree, that's not going to work if you just like ask Kyler to make these crazy plays, because we've seen it where he does. He's like he has. It's a different type of speed. It's like that really like quick twitch acceleration speed, and he can move horizontally like much faster than anyone else, while also continuing to move down the field vertically. But like I believe each of the last few years he suffered some kind of injury like the midway point, and it has really derailed the Cardinals. And so, to your point, Breech, you can't have him making every single play because he's going to get hurt and then it is going to fall apart.
Well, and it's crazy because when you're watching the Cardinals offense, half of it you're going, oh my God, what is Kyler Murray doing? And then the other half you're going, wow, how did he just do that? And it's just every other play that seems like what happens. I mean, look, the Cardinals, I don't think anyone thought they were coming back from 20-0 at halftime to win this. So like all the credit to them, because this wasn't a thing where Derek Carr went out and threw 4 interceptions and cost the Raiders the game. It was, hey, the Cardinals defense stepped up, forced a couple punts in the second half. The offense finally scored some points, and it was all Kyler Murray. And so it was a game you feel like they had to, the Raiders needed it just as much because you don't want to start 0-2. But I do agree, Brinson. It doesn't seem sustainable. Like, it was impressive to see them make this comeback, but you can't be digging yourself a deep hole every week. Not even necessarily 20-0. They dug a deep hole.
It's the largest blown lead in Raiders franchise history, and it's the largest comeback by the Cardinals since 1999.
I'll say it again. Like, if Cliff Kingsbury was a member of the Pick Six podcast in terms of looks, he'd have gotten fired at halftime. Like, it's just that.
Maybe you were Breech. I think I'd so.
Perhaps, but actually, that reminds me of a story. When we were in Nashville for the draft, Brinson, you and I walked from our hotel over to the set at the restaurant, at the bar, and it was like we were doing a morning hit like on a Friday, so we were at 10 a.m. the second day of the draft. We see Danny Cannell pull up in what looked like a special Uber, Breech, like it was like handsome Uber,
right?
Something only rich and famous people get. Because, I mean, his Uber driver looked like a supermodel driving.
Hey, how'd you get that car? He's like, I can't show you the app, actually. You have to be,
yeah, exactly. It's like the rich people dating app. I think Cliff Kingsbury has that version of not getting fired as a head coach because he's so handsome. Because there was a lot to hate about the way the Cardinals played for much of that game. And it took, we know how it ended in regulation, but it took 200 Renfro fumbles down the stretch in overtime for them to win that football game. And then, what's his name? Byron. What's Byron's last name? Always forget. Byron Murphy. Almost.
Oh my God!
Almost was Deshaun Jackson.
Did. Oh my God! I thought that ball was kind of loose.
It was a touchdown, but it was a touchdown by the same margin that Justin Fields scored the touchdown that they didn't allow in the Sunday night game.
I mean, he gets it out. And he's holding it with one hand. You can tell that he realizes it's like starting to slip, and so he's like tries to get it back down. It kind of like moves with his hands as he's trying to run
into the end zone. Don't be a hero.
By the way, worth noting, Josh McDaniels, do you know when the last time Josh McDaniels won a regular season NFL game was?
It must have been 2011.
Week 10 of 2010.
Oh, 2010.
Yikes.
That is a long time ago.
That's a big yikes.
We didn't. Were we working here?
You.
I was. You weren't. Yeah.
I'm not sure.
2010 was my first season.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I came in 2011.
Yeah. Like
Breech was still.
That's pretty crazy that Josh McDaniels last won a regular season game and you weren't working at the company.
I had hair and no gray hair, and you had that.
Did not have hair.
That weird haircut.
Derek Carr. Do you know how many yards per attempt he averaged in the second half and overtime?
Well, his final numbers look pretty good, so this must be not great.
8.
What'd you say?
2.8.
Yikes.
That's like Breech's GPA at Miami of Ohio.
Hey,
What is happening
I have the form on the show for it.
I tell you what, man.
For the record, that was much higher than mine. I was
going to say I would have literally murdered Breech to get a 2.8 in college.
If I had a 2.8, I'd be heralded as like
he wouldn't be here with us.
yeah, like the greatest hero in the Brinson household.
I don't know what the issue is in Las Vegas. Like I can't put my finger on it. I don't think Josh McDaniels is the problem. I don't think Derek Carr's the problem. Obviously, Devontae Adams is the problem. The defense is an issue on the back end, I think. I mean,
look, like we talked about this the other day. I mean, they wasted like 7 first-round picks. I mean, there's a reason why they had to fire why Jackson John Gruden got fired because of the email thing, but like but there's a reason why everyone would not have been surprised if Gruden and Mayock were replaced. And so now I do think it's a bit of a personnel thing. Like they may be getting more out. And again, like they went and got Chandler Jones, and that's great. And they traded for Devontae Adams, and that's great. Those two guys are stars, but you still have to have depth and talent around your like you can't just miss on 7 straight first-round draft picks and expect to.
Even still, there's no way on God's green earth they should have lost that game on Sunday.
No, of course not. No, they had a 95% win percentage at least. So yeah, I don't think the Cardinals are sustainable. And if you start 0-2 in that AFC West, buddy.
All right, let's put it to you this way. Or just put it to you a way instead of this way. I didn't have another way prior to that. Are you more concerned about the Raiders and their respective conference and division breach, or are you more concerned about the Cardinals and their respective conference and division?
Ooh.
I am more concerned about the Raiders because I think that division is loaded. Even the Broncos, who we'll talk about in a second, had the most craptastic offensive game, still won their game. The Chiefs and Chargers seem like 2 of the best teams. And the Cardinals, the NFC West is just so weird. Like Jimmy Garoppolo's back as the starter in San Francisco. The Rams almost blew a 28-3 lead. The Seahawks got just smacked. I mean, it is just, I would rather be in the Cardinals situation than the Raiders situation.
By the way, Brinson, we're in full on passive aggressive breach mode. He's dropped the 28-3 reference because he's mad about
He's lashing out.
He's lashing out.
He's lashing out ahead of time, ahead of the Bengals conversation. Is that true or false, Breech?
That isn't false.
Our boss actually noted that you did the grades.
That isn't false? Was that you say that isn't false?
Well, Breech did the grades, and he gave the Cowboys somehow an A-.
Oh, that's right. Great call. How did you give an A-?
Which is the most passive-aggressive Breech thing ever.
Craziness. All right.
I would just like to know that for the record, Jordan Dajani, handled the Bengals-Cowboys grades. I recused myself for conflict of interest. Did I pay Jordan to make it an A- instead of A? Maybe, but that's none of anyone's business.
Jordan gave an A+. You like took away like the top, like the vertical like part of the A+ and made it an A-. All right, moving. Oh, winners and losers from this game.
Josh McDaniels a huge loser. As
Definitely
you noted, he hasn't won a football game in over a decade.
Somebody else say Derek Carr.
Let's just all agree on a
Derek
winner
Carr?
and a loser.
I think Hunter Renfro's a loser. He had the 2 fumbles there at the end. Hopefully he's okay. He got concussed there, I believe. That was a concern with the final play.
I think Kyler's a winner because
Byron Murphy's a winner for me because he actually scored a touchdown.
It also looked like that there might have been a down by contact situation. Like Kingsbury was running. No, it wasn't. But it was like it was very close to being one. Like the ball squirted out.
Oh, the kid, the initial person almost.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that.
But I think that Kyler has to be a winner because we talked about Cliff Kingsbury. What kind of hell he would have gone through this week on local talk radio, everything, with everyone questioning what the heck are you doing if they're 0-2, and same with Kyler Murray. Why do we just give you $230 million if you're 0-2? And so this at least staves off them taking just a beat down in the public sector.
For the record, by the way, I think the Cardinals are in worse shape than the Raiders
for the overall season.
I probably like the Raiders better than the Cardinals, but I like in terms of their roster and how I think they'll be as a team. But I think that the Cardinals are in a better position to make a run in the division.
All right, let's take a more general question.
What I thought the question was.
Well, here's the most specific question. Since you're
the question I wanted to answer.
Yeah, I know. Breech's got Bengals brain. Who ends up with the best record, Breech?
What is happening here?
I'll say Cardinals.
No, it's gonna be
I will say saying the Cardinals.
Yeah, I'm saying Raiders.
I'm gonna say the Raiders.
Yeah, that's okay. That's what I was getting at. All right, what's next?
Next up, Joe freaking Flacco. You hated on him for years, Wilson, and he showed back up and ripped the Browns.
To be clear, I hated on him when he played for the Broncos, excuse me, and you talked me into thinking he was going to win the MVP. All right, go ahead.
NFL teams had lost 2,331 consecutive games.
And then what happened?
Trailing by 13 or more points in the final 2 minutes, including the playoffs. The last team to do it, I'm assuming you guys have seen the stat and know who it is, right?
I can't remember what it is. What is it?
It is the Cleveland Browns.
In 2001. And they just did it again in 2022, losing 31-30 to Joe Flacco and the New York Jets. Flacco had when you watch the highlights of rewatch the highlights of it, it's insane because Nick Chubb goes around the corner, busts in the end zone, and you're like, oh, well, this game is obviously completely over. There's no chance in hell that the Jets and Joe Flacco are going to come back. And then just very quickly, Flacco hits an absolute perfect Flacco bomb. Like one of the few dudes who could make that, even at his age, make that throw rolling left and launching it deep up into the air. And then they recovered an onside, yada, yada, yada. They were down 6, touchdown.
Worth noting, Flacco came into this game 8 straight losses as a starter. Oh, I can't say that without laughing. And by the way, you mentioned the Nick Chubb thing, and I'm sure Breech was on this. I watched a lot of this game, especially the second half. So the Browns at 1st and 10 at the Jets 12-yard line with 2:02 to left. The Jets had no timeouts left. So if Nick Chubb hadn't scored, they just got in the first down.
Ooh.
Guess what that means? Game's over.
Should he have gone down? You're saying he should have gone down.
Stefanski was asked about this after the game. He goes, yeah, that's a scenario where it's on me to communicate that to the huddle. We've done that before.
Chubb has gone down, by the way, before. He has gone down at the 2-yard line. It made fantasy people freak out.
Well, here's the thing. And I was reading this, maybe The Athletic is where I read it. But every Friday, Stefanski shows the team different situations, like late game situations, how teams around the league reacted both positively and negatively. And they discuss it as a unit to understand what you should and shouldn't do. Clearly, the lines of communication weren't clear. So on and so forth. So that's the most Browns. We talked about the Chargers charging it up on Thursday night. That's the Browns saying, the old hold my beer.
And I'm going to throw this in here because this was what I wrote about for grades today, was that literally, as Brinson just mentioned, it takes a perfect confluence of events for something like this to blow a 13-point lead in the final 2 minutes, because it hasn't happened in 21 years. It went over 2,000 games. without it happening. And the Browns had 6 improbable things go against them for this to happen. I will go over them very quickly. Number 1 is the Nick Chubb thing you guys just mentioned. If he goes down at the 1 yard, he goes out of bounds. He doesn't even have to stay in bounds. The game's over. Browns.
And by the way, again, like I brought it up just to make sure I wasn't wrong. November 15th, 2020, he goes 59 yards against the Texans with a 3-point lead and drops down at the 1 yard line.
Right. So he's done this before. So he knew. All right. So he didn't, though. He scores a touchdown. What's crazy mistake number 2? Cade York misses the extra point on the touchdown. So we're talking about the guy who hit the 58-yard field goal to win the game last week, misses the extra point. Okay. That's not good. Number 3, what happened to the Browns secondary on the Corey Davis touchdown? Brinson, the first touchdown was a 66-yarder where the Browns coverage just melted down. I mean, it wasn't.
Know what Stefanski said about that?
What? No, I don't. What did he say?
He said, we knew exactly what they were going to do. It was quite clear what we needed our cornerbacks to do, and it was play deep. It was not do whatever that happened. It was like you sent your daughter out there and said, "Okay, cover Corey Davis," and understandably, she would have gotten toasted for a 60-yard touchdown. So they knew what they wanted to do, and someone blew a coverage.
It was a blown coverage. It wasn't even Flacco being awesome.
I'm looking at like a pause version of it as Corey Davis is looking up, waiting for the ball. There is not a Browns defender within 7 or 8 yards.
How do you get that wide open in that situation in the game? Yeah. So even though he got the touchdown and all of this happened, the Browns should still win this. All they have to do is recover the onside kick. Guess what happens? It goes through Amari Cooper's hands. He has it. It's game over if he recovers this. No, Justin Hardy lands on. So that is mistake number 4.
Great onside kick, by the way.
Yes, where the ball was put down flat and it was kind of fake, going right and then kicked it left, or going left and kicked it right. So that's number 4. Number 5 is where Joe Flacco did make a great throw, but giving up the second touchdown was a mistake, obviously, to Garrett Wilson. But how do you let someone get that wide open over the middle? Just on they're at the 15. They have to get into the end zone. They don't have any timeouts. If they throw across the middle, they get tackled in bounds. The game's probably over. So that obviously is a mistake. And then number 6 was, despite all this, they could have still won because they got the ball to their 46-yard line with 6 seconds left. If they would have run one play for 8 to 10 yards, Cade York would at least had a shot at a game-winning field goal. But they didn't, because Jacoby Brissett threw his first and only interception of the game.
Worth noting, you mentioned Garrett Wilson caught that touchdown passes. He had 2 touchdown passes, 8 catches for 102 yards. He absolutely balled out. Got hurt at some point, I think in the second half, came back after, I think he got kneed sort of in the back butt area. Sauce Gardner played well. He went out, came back as well. And Joe Flacco, 26-44, 307, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Now, he got sacked. He lost. I don't know if he lost a fumble, but I know the ball was stripped a couple times because in typical Joe Flacco fashion. Breece Hall looked good. Michael Carter looked good. And all that said, to your point,
the elf in the middle of the Browns field looked good, too. That was
Brownie is 0-1.
And just speaking of Flacco's numbers, now 18-3 against the Browns. Literally the only team he's good against anymore.
All that said, though, the Browns should have won handily.
And one of the Jets, one of the Jets touchdowns,
300 some games without it happening. That's insane.
The Jets, one of their first half touchdowns only happened because they converted a fake punt and then scored on that drive. So just the Jets winning this game is bonkers.
Just for the record, Robert Saleh, please don't read our receipts.
I would categorize this as a Browns meltdown. We talked about the Dolphins made a great comeback. I don't know if the Ravens necessarily melted down. It was just the Dolphins played great.
The Ravens did their part.
Kyler Murray made some insane plays. I don't think the Raiders melted down. I feel like the Browns melted.
Raiders melted a little bit.
If we had to meltdown rankings, I would put the Browns.
This would be your number 1 draft pick of meltdown rankings for sure.
Yes, for week 2.
The Bengals.
What's that?
Bengals are number 1.
That's right. You're trying to distract from the Bengals. I knew it.
Who's our winner? Joe Flacco?
No, Robert Saleh.
And Garrett Wilson.
Loser, Brownie the Elf. What a stupid thing to put in the middle of the field. I love that. I don't remember who called the game, but they're like, well, it's based on, oh no, it was Scott Hansen on the Red Zone said it's based on some Scottish lore where he helps with chores around the house. Hey, Brownie, beat it.
Hey, Brownie, why don't you play some secondary for us here, pal?
Yeah, go cut the grass, Brownie. Get out of here.
Yeah, seriously. Or at least get a trip up a receiver or something, pal. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, more AFC North madness. Only 2 teams remain. We'll talk about them next. The Dallas Football Cowboys.
America's team.
Jerry Jones. Jerry's sitting in his boot. Can't believe what's happening. Oh my God, we got Joe Burrow. I wish I had that guy on my team right now. He's so good. Well, actually, maybe he's not that good. He likes to turn the ball over. What do you know? 20-17. The Bengals fall to 0-2 after losing to Cooper Rush and the Cowboys.
What is happening here?
So,
And I should have you guys know, I almost spontaneously combusted today because my Bengals fandom collided with my Breech Bot 3000. I was secretly rooting for the Cowboys.
So, Breech, let me ask you. I asked you this
Go ahead.
last week as well when your Bengals lost to the Steelers. At what point did you know this game was over for the Bengals?
And you know what's funny? I'm going to give the exact same answer last week. I literally thought they were down 17-3 at halftime. At no point did I think the Bengals were going to lose this game until Cooper Rush somehow hit Noah Brown.
What is happening here?
That's what was going through my head. So the Cowboys, so when it was 17-17, the Bengals get the ball back, and I'm thinking, all right, well, this is it. They've been moving the ball the last couple possessions. They're going to drive down, get a field goal, game over. Nope, 3 and out. And Zach Taylor said the headsets went out. I don't know what's going on. Cowboys get the ball back, and I'm thinking it's still Cooper Rush at quarterback. Their last 3 possessions have all been punts and a fumble in there. So it has been an ugly second half. They're not going to do anything. Even when they got down to 32, I was like, their kicker is like just a total wild card. You don't know when he's going to make it, especially from 50 yards. Smoked it. So literally, I did not think they were going to lose until that kick went through the upright.
You know what's funny? I was talking about this game on HQ, and this is how the game went. Cooper Rush went crazy on the first drive, ran the ball for 45 minutes, and then went semi-crazy in the last drive to set up that field goal. The biggest concern for me is how is that offensive line with Leo Collins, Ted Karras, Alex Kappa, Cordell Volson, rookie, how is that unit immeasurably worse than last year's unit?
Well, the one thing I kept thinking while I was watching this game was, wow, there must have been a good reason the Cowboys let La'el Collins walk. And now here's the reason, because they're just ripping him up and taking advantage of him like he's never played football before. And it was just, I mean, the Cowboys defense just put a beat down, and it's just, the fact of the matter is, if you have a good pass rush, you can beat the Bengals. I mean, that's just, I didn't think the Cowboys, I thought the Bengals would turn this into a shootout, score in the 30s, and there's no way the Cowboys would keep up. No, the Bengals got punched in the face. They couldn't respond. They got punched in the face again. Then they got kicked while they were down. And then the Cowboys were about to take the axe to the head. The Bengals rolled out of the way, tied the game at 17, and then the Cowboys elbowed him in the nose, and it knocked him out. I mean, it was just ridiculous. And I'll say the same thing I said last week, that I still don't know if Zach Taylor is a good coach. I feel like I'm saying this every week. He's not. I don't think he's a bad coach. I don't think he's a good coach. The jury is still out. We're in year whatever it is, and it's unbelievable that we're not sure what to do. You can't lose the same way 2 weeks in a row. Like you saw your quarterback get slaughtered last week. Fix things, run more screens, give Joe Mixon the ball more, do something different so that your quarterback's not taking 40 hits a game.
How concerned are you that Joe Burrow is on the David Carr path to being scared to catch a football and drop back?
Or I thought you were going to say the Andrew Luck path to retiring in 3 years. That would be my bigger concern.
But
I mean, I don't think,
seriously, gunshot. Like, at what point is he tired of getting hit because no one will block for him?
Well, I think it's interesting.
It's really like the RG3 Carson Wentz path too. It's like,
oh, ouch.
No, just like not like the non-Russell Wilson path, like an inability to avoid contact.
Yeah, I mean, they've got to do something. And there was a clip that I'm going to share with you guys.
By the way, the Bengals are the first team in NFL history to have 5 consecutive games decided by exactly the same margin, 3 points, including the regular season and postseason. It's pretty crazy.
Also,
and what kind of team lose? They lost on a 53-yard field goal last week and a 50-yard field goal.
All right, so I have two questions for you, Breech. One, do you really think that there is concern? Like, is Zach Taylor, who coached in the Super Bowl last year, on the hot seat?
No,
not at all. He's not on the hot seat here. But I'm telling you, if they lose to the Jets, that's when the sky is going to start falling in Cincinnati. That is when the crazy talk is going to reach a fever pitch. So if they lose to New York this week, when you look at the Steelers, it's a division rivalry. Crazy things happen, and crazy things did happen.
Sure,
it was
Mr. Trubisky is the quarterback.
4 quarters of craziness.
Yeah.
The Cowboys
Cooper Rush is the quarterback of the Cowboys.
Should have beaten Cooper Rush. There's really no excuse. But like 0-2 was 0-2. You got the if the Bengals were playing the Dolphins this week, who would you pick to win?
The Dolphins.
Yeah,
100%.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that doesn't prove my point.
Yeah. What point were you looking to prove?
Well, my point was going to be that they're still not. They still feel like a contender.
Let me ask you this:
I'm not concerned unless they lose to the Jets.
Would you trade Penei Sewell for Jamar Chase?
No.
The fact that you're hesitating tells me all I need to know.
No, I had to think about.
That means that you hesitated. You were thinking about it.
I didn't hesitate. There was
hesitation is.
No, there would not be. No, I would never agree to that.
Okay.
Do you think Joe Burrow would trade?
Yes, 100%. Yes.
I still stand by the fact, like, do you take Jamar Chase? He's a great player. He helped you get to the Super Bowl.
I just mentioned it because those were the two guys you could have picked at number 5. And
no. That was the debate of that draft. But I'm saying, like, I would still take Chase, and I wouldn't trade him.
Yeah, I think so too.
The problem, like, I feel like the appendicitis thing is, like, still an issue for the Bengals and Burrow.
Yeah, because they're playing like crap. But it has nothing to do with the lack of pass blocking.
Well, no, I don't think that Joe Burrow's appendectomy caused the offensive line to suck.
Also, a not so fun fact for Breech: Joe Burrow was sacked 3 times in the first half, 6 times overall. The 7th straight game, he's been sacked at least 3 times.
That is a problem.
That's a huge problem.
Here's a not so fun fact too that I saw.
I have one more question for Breech.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Are you becoming concerned that
yes,
the tattoo curse is real?
Oh,
I said at the beginning of the podcast, I swear if they lose to the Jets, I'm going to call a tattoo removal guy, and Ryan's getting that thing off, and I'm not dealing with a curse. I don't do curses. We're just getting it removed. What would be the craziness of
Breech? I have one question for you. Another question for you.
Waiting 2 years to get a tattoo.
I have a follow-up. Do you know what Joe Flacco's nickname is?
January Joe?
When he plays well.
Joe Cool?
Joe Cool.
What are the chances?
What is on? Oh, no. Guess who's playing the Bengals this week? Joe Cool.
So, Breech, Joe Burrow was sacked 51 times last year. He's on pace to be sacked 111 times this year with a new offensive line.
Which would smash the NFL record.
and Joe Burrow.
You know what's insane? On the Joe Cool Wikipedia page, there are 4 people that it refers to.
Joe Montana,
Joe Flacco, John Dory, a Australian rugby league footballer and coach, and Joe Burrow.
John. And
then it also mentions Snoopy.
And real quick, what was that number that he's on pace for, Wilson? 110? 111? I'm going to ask you to bring that up again because the NFL single season record is 76. That is how many times Joe Burrow is being sacked. That is the rate. He would smash
David Carr?
the record. David Carr in 2002 got sacked 76 times, and Burrow is already like 1/6 of the way there.
How close does he get to that record? Assuming he stays, God willing, healthy for all 17 games.
I mean, they have 15 games left, and he only has to be sacked 4 times a game to break that, or 4.2 or 4.3 times. I mean, it probably hit 70.
Oh my God, that is not sustainable. You have to find a way. I don't know how you fix it in the middle of week.
You don't face TJ Watt and you don't face Micah Parsons.
So it was 6. It was 6 today, right?
Yeah.
Myles Garrett's going to get 5 sacks. the Saints defensive line, my God,
sweet mercy.
There are some rough games coming up.
So Joe Burrow averages for his career 3.56 sacks per game.
All right, if he stays there, then he'll stay
That
for
is
the rest.
unsustainable physically. Right?
Yes,
Yeah, absolutely.
absolutely.
Cannot disagree with that.
Also, my winner is I'm going to go deep cut here. I'm going to go Mike McCarthy. 4th and 2, -43, early in the first quarter. My man goes for it. And not only does he go for it, he throws the ball. And one of the few downfield throws from Cooper Rush, complete to Noah Brown, his go-to guy. I don't know what provoked Mike McCarthy to do that, but hats off to you, Eminem, and you get my coach of the week there.
Whoa, for that one call?
Or my winner in that specific game.
David Carr led the league in sacks 3 out of the first 4 years of his career. That is tough, man.
Also worth noting, by the way, this game wouldn't even have been this close, Breech, if not for the stupid penalties from the Cowboys. The jumping off sides on the 4th and 4-ish with the punt team out there. The stupid Dalton Schultz fumble in the third quarter, late in the third quarter at the plus 30-yard line. I mean, those sorts of things bite you against good teams. You can get away with it when you're playing the Bengals.
What is happening here?
By the way, I just checked real quick. First 4 years of David Carr's career, he averaged 3.47 sacks per game. So the comparison, Wilson, that you made is very apt and very, very, very concerning.
I'll ask you again, Breech. Penei Sewell or Jamar Chase?
Jamar Chase. They went to a Super Bowl with Jamar Chase. Like, nobody's given up on that Super Bowl.
Would you cut off a pinky to just get Penei Sewell on your team without losing Jamar Chase?
Oh, yeah, there you go.
No, I don't want to give up any digits. These are my typing fingers.
What about a pinky toe?
Oh, I mean, maybe. Probably.
Really? No, you need that.
I don't like the idea of
What
losing.
fan are you that you wouldn't trade for a potential franchise left tackle to save Joe Burrow, try to win a Super Bowl just for the cost of a pinky toe?
Do I get my pinky toe once Penei Sewell's no longer on the team?
What's that?
Do I get my pinky toe back once he's no longer on
Yes,
the team?
you can have it back in a jar.
Yeah, well, yeah. 15,
I would think about
15
it.
years, you can have a pickled pinky toe back, and you can sew it back on your foot.
So let me ask you this about the Cowboys, though. I'll direct it because I'm sure the Cowboys fans who are listening are like, God, I hate that they played the Bengals. Now they're just talking about the Bengals. If they're getting Dak Prescott back, Stephen Jones sounded pretty optimistic. Let's say week 4.
No, that is unrealistic.
Well,
Okay, let's say week 5.
They said week
6.
Let's go week 5.
I think week 5 might be in the cards, according to.
All right, let's go week 5. They
Yeah.
play the Giants and the Commanders
So
in the next 2 weeks. Can Cooper Rush
If
win those
back,
games?
he's going to suck, by the way.
Okay, well, let him finish his question. Go ahead.
Can the Cowboys compete in the NFC East, or are they done? Are they toast?
Yes, they can compete in the NFC East, but I think Brinson's right that Dak's going to come back, and it's going to be like Russ Wilson when he came back from his finger last year. Apparently, Russ Wilson's finger is still broken, but that's a conversation for later in the podcast. But I thought you were going to say there's going to be a quarterback controversy when Cooper Rush goes, 10 of 12 for the next 3 weeks. And
would you cut off one of your toes to get Micah Parsons?
I would.
Just
to hang out with me, not even to play for the Steelers.
I mean, he is ridiculous, man. Like,
imagine being Leo Collins and going TJ Watt, Micah Parsons. I mean, that was his day.
Yeah, that's pretty rough. Good news, Carl Lawson coming to town. All right. Anything else on it? I feel like we took it kind of easy on you, Breech. I am a little worried about the Bengals. Like, this good.
Well,
yes.
I was just gonna say real quick that I'm not worried because they're only one game out of first place. Every other AFC North team lost, so it worked out their advantage, and they didn't even have one of the top 2 most heartbreaking losses in the division this week.
That's a loser's perspective.
No, you're one game out of first after
loss is worse than the Ravens loss.
I agree,
No.
especially given the way you
lost to Cooper Rush, dude.
I mean, that's bad, yeah.
Cumulatively, you've had 2 terrible losses.
Would you
If
rather?
If you're the Ravens, you're like, okay, that sucks, but like those dudes went nuts. If you're the Bengals, you're like, we scored 3 points against the Cowboys, and then we couldn't close out Cooper Rush.
And by the way, the Bengals dominated offensively last week and this week. The Bengals offense has not looked great. I mean, honestly, that offense looks sort of like the Steelers offense, and that's hugely concerning because they have the players they have, and the Steelers have Mitch freaking Trubisky.
This is a good question from Nathan Graber McCray in the chat. Now, it's not really a question, but I'm going to frame it as, is the NFC East the most improved division in the NFL this year?
Yeah, I think so.
Because the AFC West was already good to begin with. It just turned into an arms race. I don't think no one's going to take the NFC West. It definitely got worse. The NFC South looks like it got worse. Yeah, I think it's a good point.
Yep.
Maybe the AFC South, except
no.
The Jaguars are just the first place team that looks okay.
Yep. Yeah, the Colts are the Jaguars now.
All right, we'll get to that game in a minute. Instead, let's stay in the NFC West, or go to the NFC West, where, and really we could have led with this because it was kind of the biggest news of. Oh, sorry, did we get winners and losers? Yeah, right, for the Bengals Cowboys.
We have Mike McCarthy and Joe Burrow as a loser because he might not survive the season.
Zach Taylor for doing Zach Taylor things.
49ers 27, Seahawks 7, but it comes at a great cost for the San Francisco 49ers as second-year starter Trey Lance. Not going to win MVP now because he broke his ankle and he is out for the season. He went 2 or 3 for 30 yards and ran 3 times for 13 yards before the injury occurred. Jimmy Garoppolo, it is crazy that only Breech used his little word of the day calendar thing and busted out confluence earlier. A confluence of events, mostly involving Jimmy G's salary cap situation and the way that the quarterback carousel has shifted over the last 2 years, caused the 49ers to be unable to get anything for Jimmy Garoppolo, had to keep him. If they'd shipped him out to Cleveland when Deshaun got suspended, they would be reeling right now. Instead, they're actually they're not in a great spot, but
they're in better shape now than they were 24 hours ago.
Well, you'd rather have. We don't know what Trey Lance. It's not fair to judge it on the week 1 stuff.
No, it's not. But we know what Jimmy Garoppolo. And look, I say this as someone who's not a huge Jimmy G fan, who's not a huge Kirby Cousins fan. But again, he was one Jaquaski Tart dropped interception away from going to the Super Bowl for the second time in 3 years.
I don't think Kyle Shanahan is I think he's upset for Trey Lance, of course. This is not about.
Why is Kyle Shanahan? And he answered questions about this after the game because someone understandably asked it. Why are you running your quarterback between tackles? What? You have 27 running backs on the roster. What are you doing? And he's like, well, did you see the Bills? I hate that the Bills do that to Josh Allen. That's idiotic.
That's cool, dude. Josh Allen's Cam Newton. Trey Lance is not.
And also, it's a terrible idea. That doesn't make it right. I thought it was stupid. When I saw the play call before Trey Lance got hurt, I was like, what? Why? You have Tebow Samuel if you want to get someone who's not a running back to run the football. I understand that Trey Lance provides another element that Jimmy G doesn't get you, but that doesn't mean you treat him like Kyle Juszczyk. So I felt bad for Trey Lance. I thought the play call was not great, and obviously Kyle Shanahan's a good play caller, but it cost Trey Lance's development. And again, this is the same team that traded up to number 3 overall.
Now in Kyle Shanahan's defense, he did later call for a QB run up the middle of Jimmy Garoppolo at the goal line.
Still stupid.
Sure.
I don't remember the play. If it was 4th and goal from the 1, that's one thing. But if you're running like that, the play call that got Trey Lance hurt I question it.
Well, a reporter's question, and Kyle Shanahan got testy with him. So, I think
Breech is frozen. He doesn't want to talk about this. Look at it. Oh, there he is.
No, I'm listening. I'm thinking about. Honestly, I was thinking about how many teams could lose their starting quarterback and still
the Cowboys
re-signing.
What is happening here?
Any more
still
questions?
be viewed in the exact same view that they were before the season.
He walked right into that one.
The Steelers, the
Steelers quarterback is replacement level.
Yeah, I'm just going through the list. I'm thinking obviously the Dolphins, Bills, no.
What about the Saints?
Yeah.
Oh God, Andy Dalton love over here.
I thought you meant Taysom Hill.
Taysom Hill just runs the ball. Now that's the guy you run. That's the quarterback you run the ball with, by the way.
Seahawks, but not for a good reason.
No, I don't think Drew is better than Gino. Gino actually, his numbers weren't terrible on Sunday.
Yeah, no, really, not many teams can. The Cowboys wish they had Jimmy Garoppolo right now, or probably should have tried to trade for Jimmy Garoppolo instead. Anything else on the winners and losers? Obviously, we don't call Trey Lance.
Well, let me ask you this:
Jimmy Garoppolo is a winner because he's about to.
Are the 49ers more or less likely to win the division now with Jimmy G as opposed to Trey Lance?
I don't know what Stephen O's numbers are. I would say less likely, but I think that it just felt like if Trey Lance worked, the ceiling was so high for the Niners.
We just didn't know. And again, I'm not.
Sure. I don't think we do know.
No, we don't, because we haven't seen enough of him. But based on the information we have in front of us, the answer is Jimmy Garoppolo. Just because Trey Lance, there's not enough information.
Yeah, he is an unknown. He is a high upside.
It's like saying, well, Patrick Mahomes in week 17 of his rookie season, is he better than Alex Smith? Andy Reid knew he was, but the rest of us didn't.
No, yeah, we knew he was going to start. We didn't know if it was going to be an upgrade, going to be like it's a perfect example. Trey Lance is a loser because he is out for the season, and that
sucks.
It sucks, but yeah, it's also. I mean, how many passes is he going to have attempted in like the last 5 years?
Oh, that's the other thing. And that's the risk that you run. And this is no fault of Trey Lance, is when you draft someone third overall and trade all the first round picks and put all the pressure unduly on the player that you take. And it just doesn't work out immediately. Hopefully it will work out, but it hasn't.
Jimmy Garoppolo is definitely a winner because he's getting a $350,000 bonus just for winning today.
Oh, that's right. He's
going to milk all these incentives.
And he's the Super Bowl. If he starts the conference championship or the Super Bowl, he has those incentives too.
But just during regular season games, if he plays 25% of the snaps, he gets a $250,000 bonus. And then if they win the game on top of that, then he gets another $100,000. Yeah. So he can literally earn $350 per game for the rest of the year.
But I mean, he feels bad. There's no way he's money, but he's also like, I have 15 more games in front of me, and I am going to take every dollar from these mofos that I could possibly pull out. And I know that somebody's going to get mad at me for this, I'm sure, because there's some random game that Trey Lance played in,
last year?
Sort of, no, in college, like after, because it was a COVID year, right?
Yeah.
He
didn't play COVID year. Since
the beginning of the 2020 season, he has attempted how many passes do you think he's attempted in college and pro, excluding the one game that is not it's counted in his stats?
Has he gotten to 300?
Breech, do you have a guess?
I feel like we had this. Maybe I don't know. I'll say 350. No. Oh no, we're way over. 175.
129.
Oh, no.
That is an insanely low number of passes in real games to have attempted since the start of 2020. Like that, I mean, and it's not going up until 2023. Like I love the idea of Trey Lance, and I want him to get healthy, and I want him to be awesome, but that makes it really, really difficult to progress as a passer at the NFL level if you're attempting that many passes.
Let's bring this back up. And someone mentioned this. A couple people mentioned this in the chat. How would Mac Jones look on this team if he had gone third overall?
Like Jimmy Garoppolo.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. And he wouldn't be running that stupid play that got Trey Lance's leg broken.
I mean, he might still run it.
No, they're not calling that play. That's the whole point.
He ran with Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't think he cares.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, it just sucks. I mean, we're gonna be 2 full years into Trey Lance's career and not like get to see with the upside that we hope we'd realize. And now like they're in a tough position too, because it's like, what if Jimmy goes back to the Super Bowl?
Well, Jimmy's on a 1-year deal though.
I know.
Right. So if he goes back to the Super Bowl, yeah. If he wins the Super Bowl for you, what are you doing with the quarterback?
Hold on. Wait a second. They went to the Super Bowl. They should have won it. They didn't. Not because of Jimmy necessarily. Overthrew whoever.
They went to the NFC title game, where a dropped interception away from possibly getting back to the Super Bowl.
But there's a reason they traded up for Trey Lance, and that was a year after they went to the Super Bowl.
I'm just saying that if they have a great year, the quarterback picture is not going to get any.
No, I agree. But John Lynch ain't Steve Keim. He can't just keep drafting quarterbacks first overall and not have no consequences.
What I mean, it's not even they traded 3 first-round picks for they used 3 first-round picks.
I want to get Steve Keim joke in there.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
we already talked about the Cardinals.
It's complicated. I agree.
Yeah,
just hope for a speedy recovery and hopefully that Trey Lance balls out. But this is great news for Jimmy in terms of getting back on the field, and probably best case scenario for not having to go to a new team, learn a new system, yada yada yada, and worst case for Trey and some instances Kyle and John Lynch.
7 days ago, we were talking. Well, I think I said something like, "Are the Saints a playoff team?" They were terrible in the first 3 quarters last week. Jameis blew up, and then they just got smoked by the Buccaneers, 20-10. I mean, it didn't. I mean, they went up 3-0 early, but it felt like a lot to me, and I could be wrong here, but it felt like a lot like the Cowboys-Buccaneers game where the Buccaneers defense is just snuffing you out, right? I mean, didn't it just you never felt like New Orleans had a chance on offense?
Well, neither did the Bucs for most of the game, and then they had the fisticuffs where Marshawn Lattimore and Mike Evans got ejected.
Which, by the way, is the second time Mike Evans has sprinted off the sideline and jacked Marshawn Lattimore.
Well, it's funny because Marshawn was yapping at the sidelines, and Bruce Arians was on the sidelines yapping back. And then as he walked by Tom Brady said, "Fark you, Bobby," and the F and the B words there weren't the words that I used. And Marshawn took issue with that. Yapped at him, and then Mike Evans came off the top rope, yada, yada, yada. They were both ejected.
Indeed. Confidence level in the Saints, Breech.
Well, I was just going to say, this game right here is what scared me away from picking the Saints to make the playoffs. What scared me away from picking the Saints to win the division is you don't know when bad Jameis is going to show up. And he didn't just show up. He threw a party in the fourth quarter. 3 interceptions, threw the hat trick, a pick 6 in there. I mean, this was a close game. It was 3-3, literally for most of the game. As Wilson was saying, neither offense could do anything. And then Jameis was just out there giving away touchdowns like candy on Halloween, candy corn.
By the way, the most Jameis adjacent play of the game was 2 minutes ago in the fourth quarter, down 20-10. Chris Olave catches the ball in the middle of the field, falls down, or towards the sidelines, and towards the middle of the field, falls down untouched, fumbles it, and the Buccaneers recover. And that was I've never seen, or I can't remember seeing someone catch the ball that wasn't in Pee Wee, fall down, fumble the ball without getting touched, and then the other team recovers it. But right, the hat trick. Mike Edwards had the pick 6 with 4:11 to go in the fourth quarter to make it 20-3. Jameson's third pick of the second half.
I am extremely comfortable in my Buccaneers futures right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
To win the NFC South.
Would you feel better if Andy Dalton was the quarterback? That's a legit question.
Possibly. I would feel better with my Bucs futures, yes.
Yes, I say quarterback. What are you talking about?
The Saints. All right, we're not talking about Andy Dalton. Let's move on.
Yeah, Jameis Winston's a loser.
Yep. Tom Brady's a winner. Once again,
Tom Brady.
I'm glad Tom finally got something.
Finally. All right, what's next?
All right, we're gonna skip over we're gonna go to the Patriots-Steelers next because I have to get more ice and it makes it easy for Wilson to talk about. Plus, another loser in the AFC North. Bad day for the division. Patriots 17, Steelers 14. That under that we told everybody to hit did very well because neither.
Keep telling them that.
What's that?
Keep.
Steelers unders are good looks.
They're locks. And the issue, this is how bad it is. The issue isn't so much Mitch Trubisky. It's Matt Canada. Mitch Trubisky will do what you tell him to do, and he is limited in many regards, but he can throw the ball down the field. But that Matt Canada offense, like Breech, again, to mention your daughter, she would do a better job dialing up plays for the Steelers than Matt Canada, who has, for some reason, doesn't throw the ball in the middle of the field, doesn't throw the ball down the field. Here's the possessions for the Steelers: punt, interception, field goal, punt, field goal, touchdown, punt, punt. And the last 2 punts, that's when they were trailing 17-14. They got the ball with 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, 3 and out. Got the ball with 8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, 3 and out. That was followed up by a 13-play drive by the Patriots to end the game. That
I could not believe the Steelers defense let the Patriots run the final 6 minutes of the game off the clock.
Yeah, it felt a lot like last year's Steelers team where they couldn't stop anyone versus the run. They lost Steph to it last year. He's since retired. So He was a big part of the middle of that defense. I think losing TJ Watt is a huge deal, even though he plays on the end. But the bigger concern for me is the offense. Look, you can give up 17 points and be a really good defense. What you can't do is have your offense score 14 points and play like crap and expect to win football games. The Patriots are not a good football team. The Steelers offense, they have Deontay Johnson, they have Najee Harris, they have Chase Claypool, they have George Pickens, they have Pat Freiermuth, and Matt Canada, for reasons that remain a mystery to everyone on planet Earth except for Matt Canada, perhaps Mike Tomlin, is allowed to keep that job and dial up these stupid-ass plays that don't make any sense. There was frustration after the game from Deontay Johnson. There was frustration after the game from Mitch Trubisky about the play calling. This is week 2.
Hey, buddy. Matt Canada's called plays here before, and he ain't a good play caller.
Ask Brady about him on the Brady Quinn podcast. I know Brady's not a fan of his. He wasn't a fan last year. I don't, unless something magically changed.
He's just not a good play caller.
So I don't know why. One of the things that Steelers fans thought would happen at the top of the to-do list in the offseason, before addressing the offensive line, the quarterback, was to get rid of Matt Canada, and Tomlin gave him a vote of confidence. So I don't know how quick Tomlin is, if he's going to be like Jerry Jones and just dig his heels in and say, I'm going to do it no matter what, or if he's going to be like, you know what, this isn't working, I'm going to move on. Someone half jokingly, probably half serious, a Steelers fan on some story I was reading, said, bring back Todd Haley. Big Ben's gone, so it doesn't matter.
That's actually kind of funny.
Todd Haley, actually, those offenses work. Todd Haley had his own things going on. But I mean
the Steelers are, like, at the end of the day, like, the offense is terrible for Pittsburgh.
And here's the other thing. Like, people were calling for Kenny Pickett, and I was telling Breech this while you went to get ice.
Oh,
Matt Trubisky will do Mitch Trubisky will do, I can't remember his name. He will do what you want him to do. This is what Matt Canada wants him to do. Like, he can push the ball down the field with varying degrees of success. It's not going to be Ben Roethlisberger or anything close to it. But if you tell him to check the ball down, that's what he's going to do. And there's a lot of that, a lot of just like head-scratching stupidity, and it ain't going to change. And
Wilson, you asked me this. I want to ask you this. At what point did you know they were not going to win this game?
I didn't watch the game. So I was just watching Red Zone, and then I would get the updates. But I knew it was pretty close to the end. Like, they had a chance on third down to stop the Patriots in terms of that last long drive they had that spanned 6.5 minutes or whatever it was, 13 plays. And after that, I knew it was over. But in terms of the last 2 Steelers drives that went 3 and out, I had no faith that anything was going to change, in part because of play calling. They scored 2 touchdowns in 8 quarters offensively. I mean, I checked out. I was reading Matt Canada's bio. Like, it's not sustainable. Yeah. So I don't know when or if anything changes. Tomlin has been known to sort of dig his heels in and, try to win with a defense. That ain't going to work in today's NFL. I mean, Minka Fitzpatrick would have a better chance of winning more football games if you let him play quarterback or dial up the plays than Matt Canada. But, here we are. I'm trying to look at what I don't want to. I don't want to speak out of turn. I'm trying to think why Matt Canada got chased off, but he definitely was sort of like not asked back, because he'd been with Dave Doran for a long time, dating back to Northern Illinois. Came with him to NC State. He was at Maryland for a while too. I mean, he ended up being the head coach of Maryland because somebody got fired mid-season. Maybe he's an interim head coach, but he went to Pittsburgh for a year. He sort of moves around a lot, and I don't think that he's a great play caller. Here's how bad Matt Canada's been. Like, no one's talking about the offensive line, and that was a huge concern. And the offensive line has not been terrible. I mean, they haven't been Bengals bad. And they haven't what is happening here? They haven't been lights out. Don't misunderstand. I also think that Najee Harris is not 100%. I think his foot's still probably bothering him, and I would sit him. But they, again, I don't like the also. I mean, and you would know better than me. But is there a viable replacement offensive coordinator on the staff that they could go to? Breech's daughter. I just said that while you were gone. Like.
Her favorite words are "go," and that's to just run go routes.
I wish we had the South Park "Blame Canada" song available.
Yeah, I mean, we're a
Paramount company.
When it's this bad, you don't need Josh McDaniels coming through that door.
But I'm just saying, I don't. I mean, like I don't know if there's a. I mean, maybe it's Eddie Faulkner, or I mean, like Frisman Jackson and like they have a bunch of guys with a ton of experience on the staff. Faulkner's the only guy like might be an up and coming. Like, do you really fire Canada for?
No, he's not going to fire Canada. But I mean, there are huge questions about the play calling, and why are players calling them out after week 2? Think about that.
It's early.
Yeah,
no, I'm not saying that. Like, I'm not saying that the idea is bad. I'm just saying what is the
plan B?
Like who do you go to who has? Because you can't. It would be tough to go to somebody with no play calling experience.
Brian J in the comments mentions that Breech's daughter's interviewed for the Denver head coaching job, so she's not available for the Steelers.
Anything else we need to talk about on Patriots Steelers?
No, the Steelers Browns Thursday night game is going to be a barn burner, boys.
I already wrote down Matt Canada as the loser.
You're writing it right now. I can see you typing it. You haven't written it yet.
I already wrote it down.
It's written now. So who's the winner?
Matt Patricia, the other Matt.
Oh, good point. Man, the Patriots don't score. All right. So by the way, just quickly, the Patriots are at we did this for the Ravens are at the Patriots. And the total
feels like a ass whipping, but you never know.
But the total's like 44, which is like are the Patriots going to score 20 plus?
The Patriots defense is actually pretty good, but that's not going against Lamar Jackson every week. So that'll be interesting to see.
All right. Apparently, this is now a Matt Canada podcast.
Yeah.
Matt Canada. All right. Moving along. Packers 27, Bears 10. All is right with the world. The Packers' offense is fine. Aaron Rodgers was fantastic. He owns the Bears. It was the Bears gave it the good old college try. And
I feel much better about Matt Eberflus than I do about Matt Nagy.
Yeah, for sure.
It feels like that team is trying to buy in. Wow. I said this
great stat from our ACE research department. We really do love the research department. Shout out Justin and all the people who do all the hard work. 7-0. Aaron Rodgers is against the Bears on Sunday Night Football all time. 6-1 against the spread. He has completed 71% of his passes. He has 25 passing touchdowns and 0 interceptions. His team, the Packers, average 35.4 points per game when he plays them on Sunday night. Do not bet against Aaron Rodgers when he plays the Bears in primetime.
What'd you guys think about that bogus touchdown that wasn't called for Justin Fields late in the game?
I would. It sucks for the Bears because it would have cut it to 7 and would have made the game interesting.
Was that a touchdown in your mind?
Yes.
Well,
yes.
So
it was a touchdown.
Yes,
I agree. It was likely a touchdown. But when quarterbacks line up under center and not in shotgun, and they just dive low on the goal line, like 90% of the time, the refs are just like, well, we can't really figure it out. It's a touchdown. I think the problem was that because he was in shotgun, he's standing up and coming in, and there's like it did look live like he got pulled back before, and then the replays made it look like he got through. So if he'd gone right, there was a hole he could have scored on. Jeff Schwartz pointed out that the pulling guard in that situation makes it more difficult for the quarterback, and he didn't love that. So
the play call is questionable, no doubt about it.
Yeah,
David Montgomery standing right behind you at 123 rushing yards.
Just don't do shotgun on the 4th and quarter.
Or get the call right. And I mentioned this on HQ as well.
You want to hear me tell you not to?
Earlier in the series, Eberflus had to throw a challenge flag because the stupid official spotted the ball wrong when Justin Fields scrambled down the left side, got a first down, stuck the ball out, and they marked it on the 11 as opposed to the 9. So Eberflus had to challenge that. So when he challenged a touchdown that wasn't called, he had to waste the challenge. He had no more challenges left.
Well, one interesting thing, though, is I felt the same way about the Fields or about the first down challenge as I did the touchdown challenge. It just felt like the ref got it wrong. The video evidence was, it's supposed to be clear and obvious. And it was like, and they kept saying the broadcast, and it felt like it was clear and obvious. I don't think there's usually a general consensus when the play actually is somewhat controversial or people can't agree on it. But I felt like most people thought this was a touchdown.
Yeah, I felt like I agree with you. I think it was like when you see where he is, it's clearly a touchdown. But
you can see the ball.
I didn't think you could see the ball.
You could. You weren't looking in the right place.
I did not think you could. There was a game like this that was.
They showed you the ball on the actual telecast. I don't know what you're talking about.
There was something. I can't remember what game it was, but it was like it was one of those where you knew they were coming back and saying the play stands as called on the field. Like it wasn't confirmed. You know what I'm saying? It was stands as called on the field. which is them saying, we think it's a touchdown too, but we can't do anything about it.
Well, the line is clear and obvious, and it was clear and obvious to both me and Breech and a lot of other people that the ball was visibly over the line. So and again, here's the other question. Multi-billion-dollar operation here, fellas. We can't figure out where a football is on a 100-yard field. What are we doing?
Right. I mean, let's install microchips in footballs that when the football crosses the goal line,
a siren goes off. Problem solved.
Yeah.
It's like hockey.
Oh, look, here's a headline from 2021. NFL to partner with Hawkeye to enhance instant replay capabilities. If you don't know what Hawkeye is, that's the awesome thing that tennis uses.
Yes.
That has, if you challenge something in tennis, boom, they show it to you in like 3 seconds.
Yeah.
What's the holdup?
Why can't?
I mean, why are we relying on 65-year-old retirees to determine whether 22-year-old athletes are where they are on the field?
I mean, I do this rant like 18 times a year. I don't know. I agree with you completely.
Here, let me mention this to you, by the way. Justin Fields, did some nice things, not asked to do a lot. 7 of 11 for 70 yards. No touchdowns, one interception there at the end of the game. Here are the other quarterbacks in that draft class that won the first round. And Davis Mills, who won the third round. Mac Jones, 21 of 35 on Sunday for 252, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Trevor Lawrence, 25 of 30 for 235, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Davis Mills, 1938, 177, 0-0. Trey Lance, obviously injured. Zach Wilson hasn't played yet because of an injury. At some point, you got to take the training wheels off, I feel like. And I do think Eberflus is trying to do this right, and lean on the running game, and that worked at times. But you can't have your quarterback, who was the 11th overall pick, throwing 11 times and expecting to win football games, especially when the officials are against you.
I can't tell if it's Debo. I think it's Debo, unless Debo has like secretly hired someone else who he's got working on the podcast, like without telling us. But he's copying and pasting great facts into the chat. I like it. It's good. Do you know how many passing attempts the Bears have this season?
Less than Trey Lance's career since
28.
28.
What the hell? Week 1 was weather, but dude, like 28. I mean,
he threw 11 on Sunday night, though.
11.
48 net passing yards. That's
insane.
That's what you do when your first 3 quarterbacks get hurt and you have to play the wide receiver quarterback for the final 3 quarters.
I saw Joe Ostrowski, who does an Odyssey, the morning show, like the gambling network show. He pointed out they had a prop bet. It was like, what will be more, Joe's bowling score each week in his new bowling league or Justin Fields' passing yards? And Joe said he bowled terribly, and he still beat Justin Fields, who threw for, I believe, 70 passing yards. All right, let's.
Fun fact: Aaron Rodgers has now beaten the Bears in the regular season more than Brett Favre.
Ooh, that's a fun fact.
Where's the volleyball arena going to be built?
That's a good question. Burn. What the Favre burn, man? You're never going to be invited to that arena. I'm going to put your picture up there, and you're going to get arrested if you show up.
Lions, 36. Artist formerly known as the WFTs, 27. The Fighting Day Campbells are explosive and delightful. Right?
Yeah, I'll say this. Like this team, they jumped out to an early league that the Lions have been known to do under Dan Campbell. But unlike previous Lions teams, they didn't falter. Like their
offensive line is awesome.
Yeah, Joe Burrow knows. The Commanders came roaring back. Carson Wentz is actually playing pretty well. 30 for 46, 337, 3 touchdowns. Jahan Dotson is fantastic. Curtis Samuel had a great touchdown early in the game. But the Lions were able to stem the what's that? How do you say? Yeah, stop the bleeding. Yeah, stem the tide, stop the bleeding, and held on down the stretch. So that was a huge win for them. And by the way, Amon-Ra St. Brown, day 2 guy.
He is a superstar.
I didn't love him. He didn't play like this at USC.
Didn't have Jared Goff throwing him passes.
Yeah, great point.
But like it was weird because people were kind of cautious of him coming into the season, like for fantasy purposes. He is a star.
He also speaks Dutch, and his dad was Mr. Universe twice.
What?
Isn't that crazy?
Which universe?
Can we give Carson Wentz over Geno Smith in week 2 to even the tally at 1-1?
It is definitely 1-1.
Fair enough.
Carson Wentz is playing well. Carson Wentz is playing pretty good.
He's outplaying the guy he got replaced by the way.
That's a good point. Wow, great point.
Carson Wentz played one good half.
Well,
I mean, Carson
Matt
Wentz
Ryan's
is
still waiting
down, but he's had good moments and he's played well.
And he got the Commanders back in it.
All right, I feel I don't know if it's a hot take, but one of these two teams is making the playoffs. Which one?
I hope it's the Lions. I love the Lions.
I hope it's the Lions too. I mean, I don't want Carson Wentz in the playoffs.
I'll say the Lions.
I mean, the Lions are building something. I don't think their defense is particularly good. I said this over is my favorite bet of the week because
they were putting the hurt on him early, and then Carson Wentz woke up. You
can throw on these guys, but like
it was 22-0 at halftime.
Yeah, they're beating the crap out of them.
So one other thing happened here was that Ron Rivera did the old analytics play where they scored a touchdown. It was 36-21, scored a touchdown, made it 36-27, and then went for two. They scored a touchdown with 2 minutes, 2:04 left in the game, right? 2:04. Went for two, didn't get it. So now you're down 9, game's pretty much over. And this is where, we talk about whether or not you should go for two and how much time is left in the game. And I think that with 2:04 left, I probably kicked the extra point.
No.
Because if you kick the extra point, you're down 8 and you're still within one score with 2:04 left.
You're making the Pete Prisco argument. You still have to get a 2-point conversion at some point. It is better to know if you will correctly get the 2-point conversion than
no, because if you miss it, there's not enough time for you to get 2 more possessions, which is what you're going to need to win the game. If you miss the
2-point conversion in your scenario, you also need another possession.
The game's over. Yeah.
Well, no, because then you can take it to overtime where anything can happen.
No, but you missed the.
You don't have enough points.
You with 2:04 left in the game, if you go for the 2 and miss it, you are not getting 2 possessions. So the game's essentially over.
With 5 seconds left,
what happened here?
Down 2, and you go for the 2-point conversion and miss it. You're also not getting another possession. That's the whole
point. Right? But the game is if you just drove down.
That's correct.
Right. But you have 1 possession left, and that gives you
turn into Prisco bot.
No, it's not Prisco bot at all. I don't think that.
Well, I think the what you're trying to reason is, do you want more time to know your fate, or do you want to? That's like saying, do you want to know you're going to die in 2 years, or you know you're going to die right when you?
No, because I agree. I agree with the.
You don't want to take the air out of the sails of your team by they're like, we're down 9, it's over.
Yeah. Right. That's what you're doing. And I agree with this when there's 11 or 12 minutes left, not when you're essentially cut down to 1 possession, because the game's over if you miss it. The game's why in the game with 2 minutes left when you can still be in it. And psychologically, your team knows, hey, we get a stop here. We're 1 score away from tying this and sending it to overtime.
Yeah.
There's a whole psychological aspect of this
argument that Pete Prisco makes.
Well, my winner is Jared Goff. He had 4 touchdowns.
Prisco made an argument that makes sense.
4 touchdowns, no interceptions for Jared Goff. Robert St. Brown's clearly another one.
Winner. Yeah.
Who's my loser? I don't want to give it to Carson Wentz because he actually did pretty well. I'll just say I'll say Jack Del Rio.
It's just a random dunking on Jack Del Rio. All right. We're gonna a couple more games to cover. We'll be quick. Reminder, by the way, smash the like button, hit subscribe, turn on alerts. I don't know if you guys know this. I own Joe Musso, just like Aaron Rodgers owns the Bears.
What is Musso talking about? 70 yards should be worth 4 just so
he's talking trash. I love Musso jumping in the YouTube comments and talking trash. It's my favorite thing about Sunday night. We'll take a break. We come back. More games next. The Rams and Falcons.
My God.
The Falcons almost, I believe they were, I might be wrong about this. Were they down 28-3?
They were down.
Yeah.
They were down 28-3, right? And then they almost came back.
Made that joke.
Would that have exercised the demons or no?
No.
I think that would have meant we have to have a 283-day moratorium from talking about it.
Listen. Are we at all concerned about the Rams?
I absolutely.
Because this isn't funny. Like if you're Sean McVay trying to figure this out.
They were trying to feed Allen Robinson, by the way. There was a random medical timeout that the officials called right before the play was snapped.
No, it wasn't before the play was snapped. It was the ball was in the air.
Yeah, it felt pretty. It would have been Allen Robinson's second touchdown. He actually scored 4 catches, 53 yards. Cooper Kupp still just an absolute monster. I think the Rams.
He had the fumble at the end of the game that almost
not great.
And prior to that was the special teams block punt, which returned for touchdown, which was absolutely dog dookie terrible. I have some real concerns about this team. Chief among them is your boy Matthew Stafford and whether his arm is okay. I know he's going to be a gunslinger. I know he's going to throw interceptions, but he's had 2 games that haven't exactly, blown people's hair back who have hair. You all right?
Yeah, Musa made me laugh. He says Brinson smokes Virginia Slims.
Yeah, 100%. He can actually. You got your camera turned.
I don't smoke. I just yell a lot.
Turn your camera off.
Yeah.
Virginia Slims.
Virginia Slims. Yeah, can you picture me just like?
Yes. Oh, I can.
I can too, actually. Falcons 0-2 for the 3rd straight season for the first time in franchise history. And by the way, Arthur Smith got testy with the media. He was asked about
he stormed off last week too.
He was asked why Kyle Pitts isn't getting more targets. He said, "This ain't fantasy football. They're playing games to win." Unfortunately, Arthur, who we have an up and down relationship with on this podcast, you are 0-2. So one thing to consider would be to utilize the top 5 pick in your offense when you're not winning games, to do the opposite of what you are currently doing in order to win games instead of losing them.
Sounds like you're being sarcastic right now, Dan.
You know what's crazy is that the Rams literally did everything to let the Falcons back in this game, to the point where they took a safety at the end, then kicked the safety punt out of bounds, which gave the ball to the Falcons at the 50-yard line with 6 seconds left. And it was another situation where I was like, why don't the Falcons try and throw like a 5 or 7 yard out right here and just cut down on the Hail Mary? And Marcus Mariota, all you have to do is throw the ball up in there. You don't have time to take a sack. He had a chance to throw it. He just didn't do it. It's like he didn't see what he wanted. It's a Hail Mary. You just throw it up.
Yeah. It's out of the back. I can't. Anyway, keep talking. Anything else in this game? I'm being accused of like different types of cigarettes in the comments. I can't handle it.
Like I said, I'm concerned about the Rams. I think the Falcons are actually playing better than we perhaps gave them credit for the first 2 weeks of the season. Mariota's been okay. Cordero Patterson is still their best wide receiver. Drake London had a nice game.
He was good, yeah.
No, he was, but it's just funny because he's originally a special teams ace and wide receiver by nature. I do agree that Kyle Pitts needs to get more involved, but it was good to see Drake London come out there. And yeah, I don't know what's going on with Matthew Stafford. I don't know what's going on.
The Falcons feel like actually, here's a good question. Are the Falcons the best? No, they're not. Because are the Falcons the best 0-2 team in the NFL?
They won 7 games last year, and we talked about it all the time in the offseason. They won 7 games by a total of what felt like 7 points. They're not a good football team.
No, yeah, they're not the best 0-2 team.
The Bears. The Bears have they're 1-1, but the Bears are not a good football team either. But
I would pick if the Falcons and Bears are playing in a neutral field. I would take the Falcons to win.
Yeah, it'd be close.
I thought Brinson just asked that question because he was trying to troll me.
I was not asking it. Then I realized the Bengals were 0-2. There was not a troll job because the Bengals and Raiders are probably both better than the Falcons.
Yeah, Clarence in the comments mentions that Pitts had 3 targets, which is sad. Who's worse, Matt Canada, Arthur Smith? I would note that, by the way, that Cole Kmet has had 1 target week 1, 1 target week 2, no catches yet.
Well, they have 28 pass attempts, so kind of hard to target.
That may have something to do with it.
Yeah, at least. Yeah, I do agree. I mean, I think the Falcons, like Arthur Smith's point about Kyle Pitts is silly, but like I do agree that they're playing above where we thought they would in terms of what they've done in the first 2 weeks.
My winner is Jalen Ramsey for the interception and bounce back after the Stephon Diggs treatment. Loser, I'll give it to old Artie Smith.
All right, moving along. The Broncos. Oh boy!
I'll go ahead and tell you my losers now, and he won the football game.
Well, you can write down the 2 losers. So you know who it is. It's a coach and it's a QB.
What is going on? Vic Fangio should sue this team.
Broncos 16, Texans 9. Sorry, go ahead. I just
don't know what's going on. So I'll start with this. And Breech and I went through this with a fine-tooth comb in the Thursday night game. So this is my new thing. 1st and goal from the 1 with less than a minute to go in the first half. The Broncos trailing 6-3 and have first down. Fail 3 times to get into the end zone. So it's 4th and goal from the 1. Hackett kicks a field goal He kicks a field goal against the Houston Texans. What, Breech?
I was going to say he took a delay game to add on to that.
No, he called a timeout before the delay game to avoid the delay game. But the
delay game was when they had the field goal and then had to punt because they had to get the delay of game.
So that was a different point.
So here's a fun fact. They've had 3 delay games already this year. How many delay games do you think they had last year with Vic Fangio for the entire season?
5.
0.
2. What are you doing? Like, what is going on that you don't know how football works?
So I think this is my theory on this. And the reason I have this theory is because we heard who was announcing the first Broncos game.
I can't remember.
Joe Buck and Troy Aikman.
Yeah, it was Joe Buck and Troy Aikman on Monday night. Right. Sorry, I knew it was Buck, but I was like, I swear I got it on Sunday afternoon. I forgot. The Buck thing got me confused. But they referenced this. They said that Hackett is sending in a package of plays to Russell Wilson, and then Russ can, with one as a primary call. And this is not abnormal. I talked about this with Brady, but like basically Hackett's sitting in these plays, and then Russ is deciding this is my theory, what he wants to do. And that's what, so basically they're calling the play twice, and that's what's causing the delay of game.
It's not working.
No, clearly. No, Russ is basically like a co-offensive coordinator. That's not what you want to do.
One more fun fact, and then you guys can continue to talk about this. They've had 6 goals to go this season, the Broncos have. 4 yards. They're not the Bears, by the way. They have Russ Wilson.
And 2 fumbles.
Sweet Jesus alive. I mean, this is absolute crazy town. It's like, I don't even know what it's like. It's like it's like Breech's daughter took over Nathaniel Hackett's body and is calling the plays.
They got inside the 2-yard line twice in this game and did not score a touchdown either time.
That's really hard to do.
But then they also did that last week, the 2 fumbles. It is insane.
I'm not like tooting my own horn or anything here, but I think this is like what we kept talking about all offseason about the concern about the Broncos.
Everyone and their brother was saying the same thing, but go ahead. You can
actually Breech picked them to win the Super Bowl, but sure.
Oh!
They're 1-1.
Down hard. Oh, he missed.
He did pick them to win the Super Bowl. Sweet mercy.
Somebody reached out to me, by the way, at some point over the week. It was like, don't let the he missed soundbite go away just because we have.
What is happening here?
And I agree. We just now I want the ideal. I have 8 buttons here. Obviously, I abuse my power aggressively. I want eventually all 8 of them to be heartbreaking Bengals sound drops. just
wait it out. It'll eventually happen. They lose enough heartbreaking games.
Right. So here's the question about the Broncos.
Yeah.
Is this a adjustment thing? What I was saying was but Hackett, the difference between Stafford going to the Rams and Brady going to the Bucs is that they're established coaches with established coaching staffs, et cetera, et cetera. Like, you're putting a quarterback into this environment where nothing's changing. Hackett is a first-time head coach, and he's dealing with a new quarterback in a place that he's never been before. So is this a giant adjustment, or are we concerned about Russ may not?
No, what if they get to the point where Nathaniel Hackett's sitting there watching the film and all of a sudden it's starting to think like Pete Carroll, our running backs average 4.8 yards per carry. Our quarterback only completed 45% of his passes. Maybe I need to take the ball out of Russ's hands and start running it more. And then he becomes a Pete Carroll clone. And then Russell Wilson's upset because he's not getting.
That's the concern.
He's burning.
As we said last week, that they tried to trade Russ several times in Seattle, in part because Russ wasn't on the same page with what old school Pete Carroll wanted to do. Looks like Pete Carroll may have been more right than Russ, at least through 2 weeks. But this team, to Brinson's point, most of us were, except for dumb Breech, were down on them, just because of the transition period.
A little more down to them relative to the other AFC teams.
They're 1-1 guys.
Are they winning the Super Bowl?
They might. I'm not going to count them out.
You sound like me. You're like, listen, I'm not going to give up until they're officially eliminated, obviously.
They almost and should have lost to the Houston Texans team. By the way,
we're 0-2 with losses to Seattle and Houston.
By the way, Houston made their first red zone appearance with 11:08 to go in the third quarter. Think about that.
Houston wasn't good. Like Denver could have blown them out at any time. And I think the Texans are going to like hang around and be a pain for a bunch of teams.
The Texans were tied for first place in the AFC South.
That is the stupidest claim I've ever heard anyone say as an argument for why it's not that bad of a win.
It is a fact.
They were the Houston Texans were tied through one.
Let me just say this: I think that I mean
0-1 and 0-1.
I don't think Nathaniel Hackett, if this continues, will get fired this year. Like I think he could be this terrible week in and week out, but I guarantee this much: he will get fired week 2 of next season if this continues. Like it's not going to be one of those things. Oh, he'll figure it out early next year. Like he's. I think he's safe, quote unquote.
Well, the issue too is that, and this is probably stupid that NFL owners and GMs fall for this, but
they didn't hire him, the new owners.
No, but that's true. There is new ownership. That is a very good point. Like they might not be so patient, but it's like if a guy is being constantly ridiculed week in and week out on like Twitter and in the papers, I mean that's what Joe Judge was going to last another year. Until that absurd press conference and that sneak, he got himself fired by being by doing stuff that made him ridiculed week in and week out. If you're Nathaniel Hackett and your team stinks and you're ridiculed all year long, you're not going to keep your job.
So after the game, Nathaniel Hackett said, "I would be booing myself too because the fans were booing quite loudly. I was getting very frustrated." Hackett continued. "We got down to the red zone 2 times. Don't get another touchdown, which is unbelievably frustrating." Yeah, who's calling those plays? He goes on to say, "I don't think we've scored in there yet. You haven't." And he goes on to say, "That's something that all of our guys have to step it up." Russ said, "I guess that was helpful if needed when the team was booing." Oh, and the fan. Oh my God, this is the height.
I was going to bring up. I was about to bring this up.
This is the height of disrespect. Go ahead, Breech. What is it?
Wait, are you talking about where the Broncos fans literally started counting down 5, 4, 3, so that the Broncos didn't get called for a delay of game? That is how the
only time fans do that in a stadium for the home team is when they're doing it to the other team to try to trick them into thinking that there's more time left on the clock. They were explaining to Nathaniel Hackett and Russell Wilson, like, do you not see the 5 giant clocks here? We will count for you.
All right. So Nathaniel Hackett's my loser. My winner.
And Russell Wilson too. Who's the winner?
My winner is Javonte Williams.
He is so good.
He is very good.
Yeah. Dameon Pierce may be a winner too. 15 carries to 0 for Rex.
First time in Pick 6 history that the winners and losers are on opposite teams of who actually won and lost. Dameon Pierce lost.
No, Dameon Pierce is the winner. He got more carries.
My point is that the loser.
Oh, right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
A player from the losing team was a winner, and a coach and a quarterback from the winning team.
It sort of felt like Houston won the game.
Yeah, they did. All right, what's next?
Next up. Oh, God, speaking of losers. The only coach under more scrutiny than Nathaniel Hackett, Matt Rule. His Panthers lost again 19-16 to the Giants, who are now
2-0, baby.
2-0.
2-0.
Tebow, what's your sweat factor on the Giants stealing the division from the Eagles?
0%.
Tebow's so tired. He's like,
he's trying to get out of here. I don't blame him.
Efforts don't file. All right, look, this game. Okay, the Giants are 2-0, so I don't want to skip over it. But man, the Panthers are stinky.
Here's how it started. Chuba Hubbard fumbled the opening kickoff for the Panthers.
Yep.
The Giants.
I mean, my buddy Matt Gray always texts me Sunday about the Panthers. His immediate text was, "I really don't think he's going to make it to October."
Oh, fair enough.
But I mean,
especially if Nebraska hires him.
I really think they should do like a mutual parting the ways because Nebraska has interest thing. Like it would be the best interest for everybody at this point.
You don't disagree? I mean, fair enough. Daniel Jones looked like Daniel Jones at times. He looked better at times. So that's good. I think Brian Daboll they finally got the right guy for the job. That's good for Giants fans. But it's really hard to tell how good
the Panthers defense is not is good, I think.
Yeah, no, Brian Burns was getting after it. He was giving DJ trouble. Some of the other young guys, Jeremy Chin was making plays. I saw
the Panthers feel like a team where if you were when Jim Harbaugh came to the 49ers, there's enough talent there where if you had the quarterback, you might be able to pull something off if you had like a good coaching staff. This offense just ain't it. It ain't it, man.
That is what it feels like. Like, it's not even just the opening kickoff fumble. They fumbled on their next possession. They literally handed the Giants 2 field goals out of the gate before the game even started. So it was like, okay, Giants, you're up
5 plays and 10 yards and 2 fumbles. There's like their opening setup. It's pathetic.
All right, loser Matt Rule, winner DJ. I'll give Daniel Jones a little love, or Brian Davis.
Or you can say winner David Tepper because he finally gets to fire somebody.
I'm sure he's not happy about losing all that money, but
he likes to fire people, I think.
What's next?
I just want to look really quickly, by the way. The Panthers schedule. Remember we were joking they could start like 5-0?
I didn't say that.
You were saying that. Saints at home, Cardinals at home, Niners at home, at Rams. That gets us to October 16th. Then October 23rd, my parents are going to Tom Brady at Carolina. Is Matt Rule the coach? Bob and Ann Brinson go down to Charlotte to see the Buccaneers come to town.
No.
Okay.
I'll agree.
I mean, October 23rd, I would buy. There's no way they fire him after next week, right?
Why?
It's the week 3 is an insanely early firing.
He has done an insanely poor job.
Lane Kiffin is the only one I could think of who got fired in like week 4.
And look how it ended up for him. Matt Rule should be trying to get out of that place and go live in Lane Kiffin's life.
That's true. Amen to that. All right, moving along. Jaguars 24, Colts 0.
All right, let me read you this fun fact from our buddy Zach Kiefer. I don't know Zach Kiefer, but he does a good job.
Zach Kiefer's a friend of the pod. He's been on the pod.
He does it. He covers the Colts for the Athletic, and this was prior to
awesome, love Zach Kiefer.
Prior to Sunday's game. He wrote this in the Athletic. Indianapolis has dropped 7 straight road games to the Jaguars before Sunday. Now it's 8. 6 in Jacksonville, 1 in London. It was a home game for the Jags then. Consider the Jags have just 7 home wins since 2019. 3 have come over the Colts. They're an NFL worst 33-81 since 2015, but 8-8 versus the Colts. Over that stretch, the Jags have just 2 wins against the Texans, 3 over Tennessee, and again, 8 over the Colts, which is now at 9.
So, again, it's 2014, right?
2014 what?
So the last time the Jaguars...
Right, that's right. The streak started in 2015.
They've had 4 different head coaches, the Jaguars have. So it's not like someone's outmaneuvering someone else in a game of chess. It is just like they lost to Gus Bradley, Doug Marrone, Urban. I think they lost to Urban.
They lost last year, week 17. So that was whoever was the...
Daryl Bevell. So they beat Urban, I guess, yeah.
That checks out.
Yeah, exactly. In other words, the only Jaguars coach who can't beat the Colts is Urban Meyer.
And this is in the Jags' past 36 games. They are 4-2 against the Colts and 2-28 against everyone else.
Like what? I don't even know.
That is crazy.
I don't know what is the what's going on? Like, how is that not working out?
It doesn't make sense.
But I mentioned Trevor Lawrence's numbers earlier in comparison to the other quarterbacks in this class: 25 for 30, 235, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Market upgrade over last year, clearly. Doug Peterson, market upgrade over last year, clearly. This team defensively got after it. Josh Allen is playing like Josh Allen, the quarterback for the Bills, on the defensive side of the ball. He is so good. And Matt Ryan, 16 to 30, no touchdowns, 3 picks.
In the house.
Jonathan Taylor might as well have been James Taylor in terms of running the ball. He wasn't effective. I was trying to think of a Taylor who
the folk singer.
Yeah. There's also who's the Taylor? I know Breech knows this guy. Third Rock from the Sun. Who's that little Taylor kid he looks like a Hanson brother?
A Hanson brother? There's Taylor Hanson.
Taylor Thomas.
There's literally a Hanson brother named Tyler.
There you go. Fair enough. Anyway, my point is that this was hard to watch. It was extremely hard to watch.
Well, and their offensive line, the Colts, is a disaster. Matt Ryan got sacked 5 times. And Matt Ryan isn't as young and spry as, say, like Joe Burrow, where Burrow kind of absorbs the hits. Matt Ryan back there, every time he takes a hit, he gets up like he's thinking about retiring after the game. And he just can't keep taking these hits.
Also,
I was trying to make fun of whoever drafted the Colts in our Super Bowl draft, but it was me.
Michael Pittman and Alec Pierce didn't play in the game.
Pierce is a concussion. Pittman was a late injury throughout the week.
Yeah, something like that.
I mean, like if Pittman is like any kind of lingering injury issue, this offense suddenly has no real weapons in the passing game.
He was there last week and they didn't play well either.
I drafted the Colts over the Vikings. And
I'm going to be in first place again after 2 weeks. I can't wait.
All right. So what do you guys think about my current the Jaguars?
Don't hate it.
Jaguars can win this division. It's just true.
Well, clearly every other team is.
Yeah, I'm aware they're in first place. I told you they could win the division. No one believed me.
No, we believe you now. We're saying that now it's completely. You're not as crazy as we thought you were.
Okay, you're not. The level of compliments that you were giving me now does not really equate to the level of mockery you gave me at the time.
Well, in our defense, you are batting well below the Mendoza line when it comes to these bowl predictions. But this is a good one so far. 2 weeks in, you crushed it.
It is insane. Like, just not Urban Meyer, and all of a sudden you're quasi-professional. Trevor Lawrence also looked. I think generally speaking, the vibe coming out of Jacksonville when discussing Trevor Lawrence's performance was that it was his best game as an NFL pro. Which, if this is a launching pad for Trevor Lawrence, the Jaguars.
Except now Jacksonville's going on the road the next 2 weeks, and I don't think they've won a road game in like 5 years.
Well,
it's not that long, but they're on like a 19-game losing streak on the road.
But say -8 games because last year is just.
Jalen LeGrand in the chat wants us to talk about Christian Kirk.
Huge touchdown catch. Played really well.
Does appear to be a better signing than it felt like at the time.
Here's the thing: we're going to complain about huge contracts for players that didn't put up those sorts of numbers to justify it, and then if they prove it, then joke's on us. So good for him, and as people like to say, you don't blame the person cashing the checks, you blame the person writing it. So
and good for James Robinson. It was
did Etienne get hurt?
Coming back from that Achilles.
Did Etienne get hurt this game or no?
Not that I noticed.
Or James Robinson's awesome. That's what I'm about to say.
I just had a huge lead and they just fed Robinson.
No, he got some touches early. He had some catches too. Etienne did, and then Robinson had he had a long. I think the touchdown run was 37 yarder. Yeah.
Right. No, I'm saying he had 23 carries to Etienne's 9. I mean, like it was probably more of a this game is over. We don't want to give too many carries to Etienne versus like him being banged up, right?
No, I don't think he was hurt. I think he got a lot of those.
So you're going to give the carries to the guy who's coming off a torn Achilles?
Yeah, I don't. Think
I just feel like they go with the hot hand. I mean, obviously they're trying to get both guys.
It's like why 23-9 is a pretty big disparity when they told us they were going to split.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Jaguars and Colts for like 17 more minutes just to make deep.
So the winner for me is I'll give it to Trevor Lawrence. I'll give it to Christian Kirk too. Yeah. Loser is that whole freaking team.
Matt Ryan like put up a stat line that would make Carson Wentz be like, "Oh man, that's embarrassing."
Yeah, Carson Wentz got the last laugh. All right, we'll end in 30 seconds. Just to review my Super Bowl picks. Chiefs, Rams, Broncos, Vikings, Dolphins.
Broncos looks terrible.
Yeah, it does look terrible. Breech, what are yours?
I don't have. Where's our list?
I'll tell you what you had. You had the Packers, the Chargers.
Okay, I'm okay with those.
Yeah.
The 0-2 just lost to Cooper Rush, Cincinnati Bengals.
Eesh.
The don't have their quarterback.
I have Cooper Rush's Cowboys.
Cowboys. That's right. They just beat the Bengals. Good for you on that one. And the Steelers.
Oh, feel good about that one.
Your team, your list. Like
you're in last place. I don't even know what Brinson's are. What are yours, Brinson?
I have the Ravens and Eagles.
Ooh.
The Colts and the Saints.
Brinson's list is
Jaguars.
Jaguars are last.
Yeah.
So it's literally Wilson versus our listener.
I mean,
for the money.
Watch, it'll be Ravens Eagles, and I'll get the last laugh. Or Jaguars Eagles.
Or Packers Chargers, and then I win.
Has there ever been a cat bird Super Bowl matchup?
Of course, there's been a cat bird Super Bowl. No, I don't think there has.
All right, game tomorrow. What is it?
There's 2 of them actually.
That's right. Thank God they start early. Like none of them starts at 10:30.
They overlap. I know. Yeah, I like that better than the. Like you get done with the first one, you're like, and now it's time to. Oh no, there's an entire football game.
All right, Tennessee Buffaloes at 7:15 p.m. Eastern, and then Minnesota, faces Philadelphia at 8:30.
Mm-hmm.
Debo, which jersey are you wearing tomorrow night?
Oh,
it's gonna be Mike Momola, like normal.
Oh, that's your go-to all the time.
That's the go-to.
Okay.
You know, I met somebody over the weekend that claims she could have been lying. She said she was Justin Jefferson's neighbor.
That's your story? I know someone on this podcast that lives in the same town as Mike Lennon.
I mean, okay.
I also know someone on this podcast whose dad in a Super Bowl.
It was just random. Like when she said it, I was like, oh, like that's hilarious because I'm a huge Eagles fan myself and have been lifelong. But my producer of my podcast is actually a lifelong Vikings fan.
And to answer Brinson's question, there has never been a cat bird Super Bowl.
Would you go cat or bird if it was cats versus birds?
Cats versus birds. It'd be like Tom and Jerry.
You go.
Except that's cat and mouse.
Ooh, I was thinking like a house cat and like an eagle, but what about an eagle versus a tiger?
No.
Wait, you don't think cats and birds like go at each other? There's a whole Looney Tunes.
Yeah, cats try to kill birds. That's Sylvester and Tweety.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, like if you have like a
cats and mouses, like criticizing me, like there's not a cat bird fight. Like,
who are you yelling at, me or Breech?
Breech.
Oh, okay.
What?
Breech is like, it's cat and mouse. It's not cat and bird.
No. I said Tom and Jerry, and I made fun of myself. I said like I got it wrong.
What is happening here?
All right, that'll do it for the show. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. For Debo, who refused to talk about the Eagles. For Breech. For Joe Cool. And the 0-2 Cincinnati Bengals, the curse lives on. Will it last another week? You'll find out next week. Breech, if Joe Flacco and the Jets beat the Bengals,
elite.
Tattoo's getting removed.
You won't show up. I wouldn't show up.
I'm not going to show up. I'm going to go to bed.
All right. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you guys later.